Happy International Women's Day.
So gender equality in Asia has seen progress, specifically on closing education and health gaps. But unfortunately, it's not come at the pace or scale that we need. So while we have many more women in leadership and an increased investment in gender-focused initiatives, we find that systemic barriers still persist. So I'll give you some examples. Women in Asia still face an unequal access to capital. They are underrepresented in decision-making roles, and they face deep-rooted societal norms that limit their opportunities. Less than 2% of the global philanthropic capital goes towards women and girls, and women-led businesses face a financing gap of more than $1.7 trillion globally. We find that their participation in political decision-making varies across the countries in the region, and there still unfortunately remain large gaps to close on women's leadership in this area. When we talk about the care economy, you'll find that women in Asia continue to perform the majority of unpaid labor, from childcare to elder care, without adequate support. This has a direct impact on their ability to participate in the more formal areas of the workforce and advance economically. We also find that climate issues disproportionately impact women and affect their ability to earn livelihoods, access basic services, and remain safe and secure in their home and communities. Given that we have the most number of climate disasters in Asia, this is a huge challenge for women as climate change continues to affect Asia disproportionately. At AVPN, we believe that gender equality is not just a moral imperative, it is an economic one. When we invest in women, we see better health, education, and economic outcomes for the entire community. This is why our gender equality platform is mobilizing capital and partnerships to close these gaps and create real sustained change.
Well, as Naina beautifully touched upon, there are so many different elements when it comes to gender equality that need attention and that impact the advancement of women and girls in Asia. Now, for the last 8 years, which I actually realized recently is a quarter of my life, I've dedicated myself and my work to eradicating and tackling one very specific issue that actually touches upon many of those different elements that Naina discussed earlier. And this is the issue of period poverty. So for anybody listening who isn't familiar with that term, period poverty describes a lack of access to the support, care, and resources needed to manage menstruation and menstrual health more broadly, safely and with confidence. So at LUÜNA, we have seen that period poverty actually exists in two forms. The first being what we call temporary period poverty, and the second being more persistent period poverty. So to talk about what temporary period poverty looks like, this is something that affects individuals mostly of higher socioeconomic status. It could look like somebody working in a corporate workspace and not being able to attend a meeting or participate in the workplace because they need period products and those aren't available in the washrooms at work. Or it could be somebody who can, in theory, access the best healthcare in the world, but still has their women's health issues dismissed by medical practitioners because of the systemic biases against women's health. Then when it comes to persistent period poverty, this is something that, yes, certainly affects individuals of lower socioeconomic status, individuals that might and in ongoing way struggle to even afford menstrual products, therefore missing life-changing opportunities like work and school simply because they menstruate. But of course, it's important to remember that that kind of persistent period poverty could also affect individuals who are affected perhaps by climate disasters, which we already know women and girls are disproportionately affected by, and which we also know when it comes to solutions to support them in those times, menstrual health is often forgotten about. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about a survey that we've done recently that will be released soon that actually talks about the amount of work missed by menstruating people in the corporate workspace across Hong Kong and Singapore. When we found that 93% of women in the corporate workspace have been caught without period products in the last year. 83% of them have actually left the workplace to have to go and solve that issue. And almost 30% of them actually left the workplace for an hour or more, with 6% actually leaving for the entire day because they may have leaked through their clothing and had to go home and solve this issue. And so with this, you see that actually simply because society does not support menstruation, women are actually missing opportunities at work and experiencing disadvantages and shame and inconvenience because they menstruate. And this looks similar whether it's the corporate workspace or even in campuses across the region. So we do a lot of work with schools as well to combat this issue. So for me, gender equality, whilst having so many different issues that need attention, linked to so many of them is the real need to better support menstruation and menstrual health.